What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting across from me this week and every week, the universe is a pretty big place. If it's just us, it seems like an awful waste of space. It's Desra.
And sitting across from me is my fellow waste of space, Brian Paul.
You were gonna go there. And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we dip into the PlayStation VR archives. We dust the blow off an old PlayStation VR game. Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought I had it that time.
Yeah.
and we look into it, see if it's been updated since launch, see if there's been any love given to it by developers, any DLC, and ultimately, whether it's worth your time.
Yeah.
That being said, what game did we decide to play this week, Desra?
Well, this week we're breaking format yet again, and we're not talking about a game, we're talking about an album. That, of course, is The Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails.
Love Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, so, I mean, most people really love Closer. That's kind of the big hit, but man, I will take Hurt every damn day.
Absolutely.
Even the Johnny Cash version.
Downward Spiral Horus Station by Third Eye Studios, released
Yes.
September 18th, 2018 for $19.99. Yeah, what kind of game is this?
I guess on its face it's a shooter, but not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a floating simulator.
It's sure.
Yeah.
It's not. We don't want to call it an astronaut simulator
No,
because the stuff in this game is not what actual astronauts do.
let's hope not.
Let's hope not, or none of them are coming back alive. And in fact, I think the first thing we need to do is talk about how this game is different from the other astronaut game we have, Detached.
Yes, Detached, and also, I mean, I see a lot of people comparing it with the Persistence also, where, I mean, I guess you're in a space station that you're trying to rebuild, but other than that, it could be more different.
Yeah, I'm going to say
spaceship.
I'm going to say other than being in space.
Yeah,
This has nothing to do with the Persistence.
well, I mean, the biggest difference right off the bat between this and Descent is
That you can play it.
I can play it.
That's
Yay!
It's an automatic one.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but I just the way the motion is implemented, or just I don't know what the difference is.
Well,
but
I know what the difference is.
What's that?
You're always vertical.
Well, there's a couple spaces where
For
you're
the
not, but
most
yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Because in Detached, what you're doing is you're using thrusters to try to like maintain your balance, and you can rotate on every single axis at any second, at whenever you want. And man, sometimes it's really hard to stay vertical in that game.
Yeah.
And like even I've got I would say a stomach of steel when it comes to VR games. And man, like that, I mean, I can play it, but it throws me for a loop.
Yeah, and in this, especially when you're first beginning, your only way to move is just by like grabbing onto the wall and pushing yourself.
And it's
Very much like real astronauts do.
It's so good. I
Yes.
wish they had held on to that mechanic way longer.
Yeah.
Because you can do it throughout the game. But like
You
within
can.
the first 2 minutes, they're like, oh, and here's a grappling gun. I was like, no, keep the grappling gun for like another hour.
Well, I can understand, though, because once you start getting into larger environments, you don't want to be I pushed off in the wrong direction. Now I have to wait literally 5 minutes before I bump into a wall and can redirect myself.
Okay, but they should have left the grappling gun out for like another 10 minutes. Like, give me more time to be forced to grab the environment, grab the walls, and just boom. Because that felt, man, that's the first impression you get of the game.
Yep.
And it feels really good.
It does. This is probably one of my favorite locomotions in like what's called a free motion game that I think I've played. Because it just feels so realistic to the space that you're in. That, I mean, this is the way, if you watch your videos of the people on the International Space Station, that's how they move around.
Yeah.
They push off, and they really can't do anything until they get to another surface. And, I do like the grappling gun. I did, see people's comments about like, oh, well, you fire it, and then you can't change your direction or anything like that. It's so slow. It's like, well, guys, you just...
You fire another one.
Yeah, you fire quick, and you just kind of like slowly tap your way through.
Yeah, I love it.
It's great.
You start with my favorite locomotion system of all time by propelling off walls.
Yep.
And then you advance to my second favorite locomotion system of all time, grappling gun. I mean, in space, grappling guns are amazing.
Yes.
Actually, they're probably pretty amazing in real life too. Or like on the Earth.
Yeah, Mythbusters have tried making it a couple times. It doesn't work out well.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
It doesn't go well.
And like Jamie hurts his hand really badly.
Batman got busted. Right.
And then you eventually get that little dustbuster looking jet gun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, and there are like we've been saying, grappling gun and dart gun or whatever, but like you get actual weapons too.
Yes.
There are.
Well, they try to pull the Dead Space thing. It's like, oh no, this is a real tool that they actually use on the ship. It's like, no, that's not something they use on the ship, but that's all right. And they try to do the same thing with this game. So it's not just a gun; it's a bolt gun,
Right.
with a laser pointer. Like, I've worked in construction before. My nail guns have never had laser strike because usually you're right on the thing you're going to hit.
But have you ever worked construction in space in an alien-inspired world?
No, but I'm still having a hard time figuring out. It's like, okay, I need to put a bolt on that wall over there. There we go.
Yeah, because video games.
Right. And exactly. So I understand what they're trying to do, but I know what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And as far as the game is concerned, like I really, every single time I saw any screens, anytime I picked up anything like a weapon, even with like a viewer on it.
Yep.
It just felt very, very aliens inspired.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot. I mean, and the developers in interviews, you can see that they have no shame in admitting, they were inspired by Aliens, by 2001. Actually, it's and that train just derailed there. So, anyways,
do you have any information on Third Eye Studios? Because when I looked them up, it looked like the message on the website was the studio was founded in June 2016 by a group of game industry veterans.
Yeah.
And this looks like their first game.
Yeah, it's folks, they worked on Alan Wake and a couple other kind of larger titles like that. So people who are, used to environmental storytelling and things like that, this is definitely, this is their Third Eye's first game. This is their first VR game, of course. This is their first game. And Gravity, that was the other inspiration they had.
The movie?
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock?
Yes.
Did they ever get her? Like her and Matt Damon, they get it. They bring him back to Earth.
I think that was a different movie. Wasn't he in The Martian?
Yeah, but they're all stranded out there.
Yeah.
Somebody should do something. Is George Clooney out there too?
Yes. I think he was in Gravity.
Yeah, there's a lot of famous people stuck out in space. Somebody should go get them. What are we talking about?
We were talking about 9 Inch Nails.
Right on.
So it's interesting you mentioned picking stuff up, though, because that's one thing that I found tricky. I guess I was going to get this a little later, but you pick up this clipboard and there's nothing written on it.
Yeah.
And you go over to check out that monitor, and for the most case, there's nothing written on it. Yeah. There is no spoken dialogue in this game, although you have the option for subtitles. So that's a weird thing.
Important.
And there's very, very little written text.
Yeah.
There's a couple screens here and there to kind of remind you what you're supposed to be doing, but other than that, the storytelling is pretty much by you trying to pick up clues on what's going on in the world around you.
And there's just not a lot of it.
No.
This is for a game that kind of sells itself on environmental storytelling and coming from a team of people who are good at environmental storytelling. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of storytelling of any kind in this game. As you said, you pick up clipboards. There's nothing written on them. There are like 100 lockers you can open in this game, and unless I missed one, there's nothing in any of them.
I found a gun that I already had in one of them.
I never even found that.
Yep.
I thought I opened every single locker, and I was disappointed every time I opened one, and there was nothing there.
Unless what had happened was like it just happened to be floating by, and I opened it, and I was on the wrong side, and I came around the other side, and it was there. That's certainly a possibility.
I want to know in the comments, was the gun in there, or was there literally nothing in any locker ever?
Yeah.
That was so disappointing. I was like, oh, look, things to open. I love playing with things in VR. There's always stuff floating around, and find like little cats and stuff. There's all sorts of cool things to pick up, but there's nothing to do with them.
Right. Just like all the switches and buttons on the consoles. Almost all of the consoles, if you float down and get close to them, they have sliders. You can flip up and down, switches you can flip, dials you can turn.
Nothing happens.
That don't do anything.
You would think like you're blowing up the space station somehow.
Right.
Yeah. So we know a bunch of things that we're not doing in this game, like learning what happened.
Right.
But what are we doing? We're moving around, and we know now about the locomotion schemes, and there are enemies.
Yes.
But what are we doing?
We are trying to reassemble and put together Horus Station. It is a space station that has gotten separated. Something bad has happened, as apparently happens with every single space station ever in history.
Yeah.
Sorry,
People should
ISS
just
folks.
Stop building them.
Yeah. And so you're going through kind of like section by section, restoring power to places, and then eventually reconnecting kind of the hubs together, and then turning off or rebooting. It says rebooting the AI, but you blow it up good. So
yeah, and there's a whole lot of I'm going to say repetition, because I feel like there's maybe 3 things that you do in this game, and then you just do them over and over and over again.
Okay.
Like you go through hallways.
Yes.
And you shoot robots that are floating.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, I'm putting a pin in that.
Yeah.
If this game feels so alien inspired,
yeah,
like it was, I think, pretty disappointing that there were just floating robots everywhere. I was like, I want some xenomorphs, right? I want some things like crawling down the walls.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for oh my gosh, the space shooter that everyone loves. Why can't I?
Is it a VR game?
Yes.
Is it
not Firewall? It begins with an F. You need the aim controller for it. Farpoint. Wow.
Don't worry, goodness. I'll edit that out.
Yeah.
So that space station, so the space game that everyone loves.
Yeah, Farpoint. But the fact that like you have a certain enemy type, then like, halfway through the game, all of a sudden everything changes and you meet this totally other enemy type. That would be nice to have that kind of moment. And there's hints, I guess, that kind of thing could happen, but it never does. You do get a few different classes of the bots, and I do find if you were coming at this with a negative outlook, you would say this is a very slow game. But I like the pace of it.
Yeah.
Because you are like it is very realistic. Like, if you push off a wall and you're just floating off, that's what you're doing. You're floating slowly, and if the bots are coming at you, well, tough, deal with it. And the fact that you do have to using the grappling gun, and we should mention you have 2 hands if playing with the move controllers,
which you have to do
in
VR. You can play this in non-VR.
Yeah.
And in non-VR, you have to use the DualShock 4. Don't play it in non-VR. It's really boring. You lose the immersion is what's the best thing about this game. And then in VR, you have to use the move controllers.
Yes.
And the DualShock 4.
Well, no, you have to have the DualShock 4 on.
Exactly. How moronic is this?
I thought something was wrong.
Me too.
I kept on going over and over again, like, because I have my controller set to timeout after like 10 minutes of inactivity.
Yeah.
And I'm playing along, and all of a sudden, you must reconnect your controllers. So I'm sitting there trying to reconnect my move controllers.
Right.
I'm turning this one off, plugging another one.
So you don't use the DualShock 4 when you're playing in VR, but it has to be on.
Yes.
This is one of the many janky things about the VR version.
And seems like such an easy fix.
Right?
Right. There should have been like patch.
There's been no patches since launch. And this is one of the many things that Third Eye says, oh, don't worry, we got it covered.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, you mean along with click turning?
Right.
Only click turning. And they said, again, that's not a difficult thing from what I've been told to patch in.
Yeah.
So we're jumping the gun a little bit here because usually before we end the show, we talk about the things that have been updated.
Yeah.
There hasn't been any updates. So if you heard any complaints about this game at launch, it's still the same
still
game.
Valid. Yeah.
Absolutely. So one of the other things you're doing,
yes,
other than shooting robots, is I feel like the major puzzle element they introduce are blue disk drives with missing blue disks.
Yes.
It's basically like, hey, where's the key for this door?
Right. So it's very generous to call it puzzle solving. It's more like, oh, I need to find. And actually, there are a few times, most of the time it's very linear of like, oh, I'm going this way, and there's that. Oh, that's the only door I can go through, so I'm going through that door.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you have multiple choices, and usually that's either you get to explore a room and look at it, or it's you find this. Oh, I need a disk drive. Oh, it's in that other room. I just happened to luck out almost every single time. I found the room that had the drive before I needed it.
Yeah.
I found the drive.
Oh, you found the room with the disc first.
With the disc. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm gonna need this soon.
I wasn't always there, and I'm kind of making fun of it a little bit. I'm like, go to find the blue disc, put it in the blue drive. But it's for me. I thought it was I thought some of it was really cleverly done. You know, because I was always finding the drive first and then being like, where's the disc? And sometimes there'd be a pane of glass right in front of me, and you could see another room, and you'd see the floating blue disc, and you're like, oh, okay, so it's like literally 3 feet away from me, but how do I get into that room? And so it's like this kind of labyrinthine style space station where you have to like figure out how to get like through, like there's like, I don't know, not just hallways. There's also like vents and stuff. Is it vents?
Yep.
Vents.
Yeah. If we're talking, you know, Star Trek Jeffries tubes.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
And the thing is, too, if you actually, once you beat the game, you can go in, they have some extras. They have some videos, kind of developer interviews. And one of them actually shows that this is a real space. They actually mapped it out so this thing works in the real world. So when you see that through that room, you can figure out like, okay, I need to go through here, here, here. There's no like magic corridors where you go through this door and you're completely on a different, you know, side of the building, which, you know, is a lot of games kind of do just because it makes it easier for the storytelling. You know, if you can just, it doesn't really matter if the rooms are laid out in real space, but here they are. My issue with that though, and it's the one that, you know, I loved moving around in this, and even with some of the issues we've been talking about, it does feel very like you feel very present, very immersive. Every time you open a door, black screen.
Yeah.
Fades to black and comes back.
And here's the bigger problem with that. It happens in single player.
Yes.
But it also happens in multiplayer. And I'd be like, that's fine if it happened to the person only that was opening the door. But no, I was playing with Dave Station for like 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
And he's on the other side of the room opening a door. He opens the door. I don't even know he's doing it.
Yeah.
But I know he's doing it because my screen also goes to black when he's opening the door.
Yes.
And I was like, what is that about? Like, what is actually happening? Because it's not like they fade me back in and I'm in the new room with him. Like they're carrying me into that.
That would be
space
great.
with him.
That would make sense.
Kind of, right? You're like being forced along with somebody else. I'd understand why they're doing it, but no, the screen just comes back up. I'm exactly where I was, and Dave's on the other side of the door, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, and thank God, you know, the combat stops when that happens. Oh wait, no, if you're trying to run away from a bot or something, and the screen goes black, well, that bot's still there, and you're getting shot.
Since we're sort of on topic already, when you're playing this multiplayer, so here's the great thing. This game is playable with 2-player co-op.
Yes.
So you can go through the entire campaign in co-op, and I kind of recommend that's how you do it, even though it's got issues.
Yeah.
Because it's I think there's a lot of repetition in this game and a lot of just downtime. You know, if some people call it slow, I call it an opportunity to get to know somebody. because man, I had a lot of fun. I talked to Dave for 4 hours straight about like relationships and life and you know, drinking and all sorts of fun things. For 4 hours, as we're just like, hey, where's that blue key? Oh, it's over there. Let's go get it. All right, what else you want to talk about? The problem is you got to remember, when somebody's going through a door, you should really go through the door with them. Yeah. We ended up in so many situations, a couple times throughout the 4 hours, where we thought we had to restart the game because he was on one side of the door and I was on the other, and there was no handle for him to open anymore. Like, it was there, but it wouldn't register.
Right.
And so the game just didn't understand that there were 2 people in 2 different spaces. Yeah. And that handle was no longer a thing. It didn't need to be.
Yeah.
So it's got some issues, like little things like that. And man, I think he might have had to go find a robot and get killed to be respawned in a place near me. It was messy.
And actually brings up another point. There's no real penalty to dying in this game.
No.
Like, if you get a room with, like, say, 6 bots in it, and you kill 2 of them, and one of them kills you, okay? You die, you respawn in a med bay that's conveniently attached to the same room you were just in. You come out, those 2 you killed are dead, and the other ones are exactly where you left them. So it's you know, it's an annoyance. I mean, and you do, to be fair, though, it is very easy to die. Even the simplest, you know, easiest bots are pretty lethal. 1 or 2 hits and you're dead. So I can understand prevent it being too frustrating where they did that. But if you don't want it to be too frustrating, I don't think we mentioned this, there's 2 ways to play the game.
Right.
There's the explore and explore and experience, engage. Explore and engage.
Yeah.
Explore is the whole game, beat by beat, all the puzzles, all the everything, just with no enemies.
Don't do it that way because man, you know, I think I've said the word repetition quite a few times to the point of being repetitious.
Yes.
And man, like you kind of start craving combat after a while. Like even though you know it's going to be difficult and you might die, like after just hallway after hallway and being like finding the blue disc and doing this and doing that and being like, man, am I even going in the right direction? Sometimes when an enemy pops up, you're like, oh, thank goodness, an enemy.
Right.
Like, here's something to do, something to shoot, some excitement, and also to clue you into the fact that, oh, I haven't been here yet.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of the hallways look familiar, like repetitive, and so it's good to find a new spot and be like, okay, I'm heading in the right direction because there are enemies.
Right.
I don't think I'd want to play this without the enemies.
Yeah, I can see where if you just wanted to, like, let's say you beat it once with the enemies, you're like, oh, you know what? I didn't quite get what was happening in the story. Let me go through again to see if there's anything I missed. 1, no, there wasn't. No. But 2, then you can go through maybe a little faster and just kind of explore a little more. Yeah. The only other puzzle that you didn't mention, which is one that was a total surprise to me, were the docking puzzles.
They puzzles or just action moments?
Well, just like you're sitting there looking around at the console, all of a sudden, oh, what are those green bars? Man. Oh my God, the ship is done. Oh, I have to do something, otherwise I'm going to crash and die.
Yeah.
There's no real heads up that, oh, by the way, these random bars on the screen, yeah, they mean something. It's important. You should be paying attention to this.
Yeah. So. It's not a puzzle. It's just line up things appropriately, and when they connect, hopefully they're lined up.
Yes.
I was pretty far off, I think, for a couple of them, and it was fine.
Okay.
Like you just need to do it, like and do the best you can, and I think usually it works out.
It was just one of those. Oh, surprise! You're doing a puzzle now.
Yeah. I do like there was one puzzle specifically that you had to rely on a video camera that was pointing at one thing that showed a combination or something like that, and you're like, oh, okay, so it's like they're every so often they interject this like an actual. Hey, here's a puzzle. Here's something that you haven't seen before in this game. Later on, there's lasers and stuff, and like there's a cool like little puzzle. It definitely breaks up the monotony. But man, yeah, there's
one thing that we should talk about. The floating disc made me think about this is the collectibles,
which is you don't even know they're collectibles until you pick one up.
Right, and not only that. So the collectibles are very clearly audio tapes,
right,
or some kind of digital magnetic tape, which in any other game would give you a bit of story,
like an audio log.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in this game, what happens when you collect it, you get an enormous black bar across your screen for a good 30 seconds, 45 seconds.
Is that long?
And it is ridiculously long, saying 15 of 20. Now there are 20. Well, I know that because I saw it over and over again. There are 20 of these collectibles.
I thought there was 30. That's funny.
I got you, but you get to the point where like I don't even want to collect it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go blind.
Well, and I waited. I didn't know they were collectibles for so long because there's a ton of crap just floating around you, and so like, and I'm just ignoring it all because I've picked up 1,000 things and nothing has any relevance.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I'm guessing that audio tape is nothing. And I went by like 10 of them.
Okay.
And then I finally was like, let me pick this up. And it was like that bar appeared. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. So the 10 that I didn't pick up are now lost in space forever because I'm not going back for them.
Yeah. Well, basically, I mean, I think the hint is it's yellow.
Yeah.
In the game, yellow is something you can interact with.
Right.
Like the weapons and whatnot, as you find them, they're kind of all highlighted in yellow. It's another one of those things that, again, a patch, an update to just drop the timer on that bar being across. It's like, you know what? I don't need that much time to read 3 words. One thing we haven't talked about that I thought was great was the sound design.
Yeah.
Now this sounds fantastic
for the most part.
Okay. For the most part.
I do agree that like you and I have talked at length I think about like Star Trek: The Next Generation and Star Trek Voyager and how like the sounds of the ship.
Yes.
Like they're soothing but they also like it gives you a sense of place. And I think Detached does that admirably.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think when enemies appear and like there's like this doom, like
the music
kind of ramps up and you're like, oh, wait, there's music. There must be a bad guy here. It's like, oh, okay, it puts you on your toes. I think that's really well done.
Okay.
I think when you go out in space and you do the spacewalks, because this is the other part of the game we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
I think those are visually kind of amazing, and you're like, ooh, I feel like I'm really far away from anything because you're like usually cramped in hallways.
Yeah.
and then suddenly you're just like out with like nothing,
right?
And you're like just desperately hoping for something to latch onto with your grappling gun, and it's got the weirdest music that's so out of place that I'm like, this is just goofy. Like every time I'm just like, I don't even know why this is happening.
Really? See, I thought it was fine. I love the sound design, the outer space, because it's just muffled. Like there is no sound in space.
Yeah.
God damn it, science fiction writers. There's no sound in space. I know it looks cooler in the movies, but there's no sound in space.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. In space, no one can hear you scream.
Yeah.
That wasn't busted by the Mythbusters.
No, because there's no medium for the sound to carry. So the only sound you get.
I don't know. I watched a flat Earth documentary. What do I know?
Well, the only sound you get was just from the stuff like vibrating against your suit. So like the sound of your grappling hook hitting something would only get transferred through the line, into your arm or whatever. So everything everything was appropriately like muffled and or silent. I thought that was great. That was actually some of my favorite sounds was when you were on the outside.
Agreed. Yeah. But the music.
Okay.
Is just weird.
Yeah.
I just don't know, man. Hopefully I have some of that video captured so I can show off what I'm talking about, but don't count on it.
But definitely those moments are you need to play this in VR.
Yeah.
Because like Brian said, you're in these, cramped corridors making your way, all of a sudden you open up and it's like, oh, there's the planet below me. And there's, like chunks of the space station, and I have to, that's too far away. I can't get there with my grappling gun. How am I going to do that? Those are some of the moments that make the rest of the game worth playing, honestly.
I think we should probably mention, we mentioned how you can do co-op 2 players in the campaign, but you can also do 8-player death matches.
Yes.
So
if you can find 8 people who are playing it.
You can't even, so here's the thing, there are no lobbies in this game.
Yeah.
Even if you want to play co-op campaign, you just have to be like, hey, ready, on your mark, get set, hit the button, and hopefully it matches you up if you happen to be the only 2 people playing. Even then, I've been like, we're both waiting for a multiplayer game and it's not connecting us.
Yeah.
If it will not do it, I tried to play with Gamertag in the UK. It was like, nope. Like, what? Are you kidding me? We're the only 2 people on the face of the planet playing this game right now, and you're not matching us up because we're in different territories. So the same problem happens with the 8-player deathmatch. No lobbies. Again, there's not 8 people playing. And on top of that, it gets boring pretty fast.
Yeah.
Like it's just death matches, and like it's Space Junkie. We have Space Junkies, which is actually really good. It's doing exactly what this is trying to do, but really well done.
Yeah.
So like, there's no real use for it, and there's no chance you're going to get people together playing it. It's fun for a novelty, but it gets old very, very quickly. Yeah. Do we have to rate this thing?
That's what the people want.
Well, let's tell them how we rate these things.
All right, so our rating system is pretty simple. A 1 is yes, you have to buy it. This is just the best of the console. It should be, well, if you have a PSVR, it's got to be in your library. 2 is, sure, why not? If it's a genre you particularly like, or if it's on a decent sale, go ahead, buy it. It's not going to hurt you. And 3 is no, do not buy this game. Friends don't let friends buy crap. We need to vote with our wallets and tell developers that we deserve better. So, a 1, 2, or 3. What are you going to give it?
Yeah, I think I think it sounded like I was kind of down on this game the entire episode.
Yeah.
And I am a little bit, right? It's like the first half hour is intriguing. And I'm like, oh, this is very, very cool. I love the locomotion systems, both ways you can move around. And I like, I like the idea, and like, I don't even care that there's not much of a story, because I'm just like, just keep moving forward. But man, I saw the same hallway.
Yeah.
In the same rooms, basically copied and pasted over and over and over again. And the only difference, the only way you're making progress is because, those brown rooms are now blue. Like there's slightly different lighting, and you're like, it's a new area. It's like, no, it's just new lighting. You just do the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
There's not enough variety in this game for me to go, you need to play this.
Yeah. But
it's a really cool experience, and it's a really, like, and if you have somebody to play it with co-op, man, like, again, like, I know that's like extra stuff that's not included in the game, like if you're like talking to someone and having fun with them.
Yeah.
But it made my experience so much better. So because of that, I have to give this a pretty strong 2.
Okay.
And I will say that once, I think in December of 2018, it was on sale for like $12.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Downward Spiral for $12? I mean, I know it's only $8 difference, it's usually 20, But that's for me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer, man. Like you play through it once, 4 hours with somebody else, $12. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a 2. It's a strong 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a special game, but I think you'll enjoy it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pretty much agree. I would say this though, if you're expecting like a high adrenaline, fast-paced shooter kind of thing, no, this is not that kind of game. This is a slow exploration sort of game. The combat, I think it's more strategic than it is kind of like twitchy, because you have to, figure out how to beat these particular bots with the tools that you're available to. And they're tools that are very different from any other kind of shooter, any other first-person shooter. So I would say if you're a hardcore science fiction fan, this is cool because you get to explore a derelict spaceship, what we all want to do. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2. I think it's fine. There's only 2 things that really annoy me about this game. And one, I'm going to recommend, if you do play this game and you do beat this game, do not watch the extras. Because
don't watch the extras.
Yes.
Okay.
Because all right, I am totally okay with open-ended storytelling. You know what, we want you to fill in the blanks. We're gonna let the player we're gonna give them pieces here and let you create your own story. Cool. Totally fine with that. I'm cool with, no, we have a very specific story in mind and we've given you the clues for you to be able to piece it together. I'm cool with that. What I'm not cool with, we want you to think we have a really cool story in mind.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to put that together properly because that's hard. So instead, we're going to put hints to it and make you think that we have it planned out and you're too dumb to figure it out.
Yeah.
The J.J. Abrams effect.
Hey. That's rough.
Hey, look, Lost. Awesome. Look at all these details finally at the end.
But Fringe was awesome.
Finally at the end.
Same issue. Yeah, same issue though.
It's like,
all right.
Look at all these details. So that it's.
I'm giving you a pass on this one.
Yeah.
You're kind of right.
I know. Hey, and I believe me, I loved his Star Trek movie. I loved his Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
But it's all this same kind of like
Downward Spiral Horror Station, directed by J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. And the other is Ancient Aliens just pissed me off. Knock it off, guys.
All right. So, what did you think about I was going to say Ancient Aliens. What did you think about Downward Spiral Horror Station? I know there are people begging me for a review, Will, and I know that there's a lot of people who absolutely love this game.
Yeah.
So I want to hear from obviously everybody, but I'm really curious to hear about the people who absolutely love this game. I know some people are like, I spent 10 hours playing this game, and I'm like,
I love moving around in this environment.
But but after 2 hours, I was like, I'm ready. I've seen everything this game is going to offer.
Yeah.
Like I want to know what you were doing for those other 8 hours. Also, what other games do you want us to cover? The list is long and gets longer by the day, but man, we're having a lot of fun playing these suckers.
Yeah. We are.
All right, that's it for another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Des.
And we'll see you next week.